Hi guys, my name's Vicky Day and I'm the Channel Manager for Northern Europe. And today I'm going to be talking with Aaron from Paragon ID, one of our gold partners based here in the UK. Aaron, it's great to have you here with us and we really appreciate you taking the time out to answer a few questions. So first of all, if we could just kick off with giving us an overview of the company, your name, your title, where you're based, etc., that'd be great.
No problem. Thanks, Vicky. Aaron Duddin, I'm the Smart Solutions Director for Paragon ID. We are a global business, so we've got sites all over the world. In terms of the ID business, we've got an RFID discovery, which is our solution side of the business based out of Milton Keynes. We also have production facilities in Hull and in Southend, as well as Arjan, the US. And what we do as a business is we focus on the identity of either people or objects using technologies. So that's everything from passports and inlays for passports, and then everything up the value chain through to the delivery of software and solutions that can track and manage assets like logistics or in healthcare.
Perfect. And you touched upon logistics and healthcare. Do you cover any other industries?
We do. So Paragon ID, we've got 4 core markets. The first of which is EID. So that's anything that identifies a person at a national level. So in that case, that's the passport side of the business. It also involves bank cards as well as driver's licenses, anything that uses a form of RFID or technology to identify a person. We then have another market, which is transit, which is the biggest side of our business. And that's, again, the movement of people. So in that instance, we provide everything from the tickets that you would use on a train, London Oyster card, everything through to the actual readers and software systems that sit behind ticketing infrastructure for cities. So if you look at every country in the world, we basically provide the ticketing solution for all the major cities. So New York to Sydney, London, Paris, everything in between. The third key market for us is banking, and in that we provide bank cards. So we own the IP for things like metal bank cards. But we also provide gift card services like Amazon, all those guys. We produce the cards for those. And then the final market, which is the one that's most relevant to to our discussions today, is around track and trace, and that's again everything in the value chain from the production of the labels themselves to the inlays. So buying the ICs from Impinj, but then converting those into labels, and then everything up that value chain to the installation, commissioning, software development, and that full service of a solution for tracking assets, whether that be in healthcare, where we're the market leader in the UK for medical device tracking, through to logistics, through to production line tracking, and everything in between.
Super. And Aaron, in terms of Paragon ID, can you describe the solutions that you sell that are enabled by the Impinj platform and the Impinj products that you use within those solutions?
Yeah, no problem. So in the sort of track and trace logistics side, I mentioned healthcare. That's the biggest market share for us. So we're the market leader in the UK in terms of the kind of solutions that we're providing. So we're using the speedways and X-bands on site in hospitals to track medical devices. So we've been quite influential in the COVID-19 fight, for example, where we're working with hospitals. We're just in the process of rolling out a new hospital, Plymouth, which is going to be the largest RFID deployment in a hospital in the UK. And that's for tracking medical devices, so helping them understand how many of the different devices they've got on site. So we provide cost savings for hospitals in terms of their procurement, but then also helping them locate where those assets are. So, if a ward is short on assets, or they've moved into other wards, we can alert those things and then make sure those pieces of equipment are being used in the hospital in the right places at the right time.
And Aaron, you mentioned there about COVID. How has the company or the markets that you serve been affected by the pandemic?
I think if you look at the 4 core markets that I've mentioned, obviously a lot of what we do is identifying people and objects and then managing the movement of them. So whether that's tracking an asset or enabling a journey or a train. So I guess when you look at that whole range, some of our traditional markets where you look at ticketing for transport, obviously been impacted because less people are traveling. But then there's been upsurge on other areas like healthcare, for example, where most governments around the world are investing extra money into their healthcare provisions to try and fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. So in that instance, we've been able to be involved with and deploy a number of solutions now, which is helping in that fight, like that I've mentioned, but we're also working with other trusts, things like reusable PPE and tracking and monitoring of that. So lots of upsurge on that as well. So positive and negatives.
And in terms of the vision for the future, I know it's a difficult one, but for the company and your customers, what do you think the vision is for the future moving forwards?
Well, I think when you look at the markets that we work in, and certainly around the movement and of assets and people, the number of people in companies is probably going to be declining, as we know the impact we're seeing both in the UK but globally now, with numerous redundancies and a reduction in workforce. Most businesses are looking at how they can reduce that and save cost. So with that, normally involves some form of automation of process. When you look at the actual transmission, methods for COVID, touch is obviously a key one for that as well. So businesses looking at health and safety and how they can improve the safety for their employees by reducing touch. Reduction of people means automation of process, and then there are two things that lend themselves very well for RFID. So when you look at what we're expecting in terms of our markets, certainly from the track and trace perspective, we see big growth potential.
Excellent. And finally, Aaron, in terms of 2020, what are you seeing or what are you hearing that customers have told you are their biggest issues, are their biggest problems that they relied upon and requested, Paragon ID's help with solving?
So I think when you look at our core markets, certainly in the track and trace side, so things like healthcare, it's looking at how the technology supports their business requirements or, their patient requirements, really, is how they use the technology to support their patients and the delivery of care to those patients, and how that has changed with COVID. We're using our platform and our RFID discovery platform now for more things COVID related. So rather than mass audit of all assets in a hospital, for example, we're seeing more demand for that more real-time information of where an asset is right now, so that critical equipment can be deployed faster and the utilization of that equipment can be known ahead. So looking at, if you've got a national centre or regional centre looking to divert patients to certain hospitals based on the availability of equipment, say ventilators or ICU beds in COVID-19 case, then we can use our technology to identify what's available, how many beds are available, how many ventilators are available, so that if the demand reaches that capacity, then rather than send a patient to a hospital that doesn't have that equipment available to support, they can divert that patient early on to another hospital that does. So we're finding more demand from that, but also, where that extra equipment now is now needed, that ability to do an audit on what's there already. RFID is a great way of doing that, and that's something that we've been very strong on. Typically a hospital would spend months walking around with clipboards in the past trying to work out how many different bits of equipment they've got, by which time, of course, that equipment's moved into other wards and they would be around 60% accurate with an audit. As soon as you implement an RFID solution like ours, then their immediate accuracy ramps up to anywhere between 90 to 100%. So that gives them real knowledge of what they've got available, how many bits of equipment they need to support, the demand that they're seeing from their patients. And then that allows them to control their business a lot better and either buy more stuff or not buy more stuff if they find they've already got more than they thought they had, which quite often happens. And so we're seeing that demand a lot more. And then also the new types of things that they're purchasing, like PPE. So, we've seen governments all across the world now spend lots of money on additional PPE. When you look at the environmental impact of that, if it's a one-time use PPE item, for example, that's a big environmental impact. It's also a big cost because you're buying lots of things that are being used once and thrown away. So we're seeing things like reusable PPE now coming to the fore. Now, in order to be able to track how many times something's been used and therefore stay within its safety regulations, then having something like RFID actually allows that audit trail of how many times it's been used, and that's been a big driver as well for us.
Thank you, Aaron. First of all, thanks so much for your time today. It was really great to get your business insights and to answer the questions. And Impinj, you're a great gold partner, so we really appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Vicky.